What if you could build a full KPI dashboard in Excel, sales, staffing, and customer metrics, and then toggle the entire report by region with one click? In this video, we're building that exact dashboard from scratch using formulas like SUMIFS, COUNTIFS, SUMPRODUCT, plus charts, conditional formatting, and a PivotTable plus slicer to make it interactive. Let's jump in. Go ahead and open the Excel file called KPI Dashboard Start. I have a link in the description of this video and you can download it for free. A good dashboard starts with clean logic. First, we'll understand the data, where it lives, what each sheet does, and what we can trust. Then, we'll build a calculation sheet. This is the engine of the dashboard. This is where the formulas live. This is where we summarize and organize the numbers. If this part is messy, your dashboard will be messy too. And finally, we'll design the dashboard page. That's where the charts and indicators live. That's what someone could print or screenshot or show in a meeting. When you open the file, you'll notice something important about the color of the tabs. The dark teal sheets are the input sheets. That's the raw data. We don't want to break those. The green sheet is where we do the calculations. That's where we build our formulas and our logic. And the orange sheet is the dashboard output. That's the page we want to end with. If you get lost later, always remember this. Inputs feed calculations. Calculations feed the dashboard. Now let's start on the assumptions page. We have three types of stock. Regular items are normal stock sold at normal price. Promotion items are items we push through advertising or a special offer. Clearance items are items we want to get rid of, so they're discounted. On this sheet, we also have targets. For example, there's a Net Promoter Score target and targets for customer satisfaction and staff satisfaction. These targets matter because later, when we build charts and indicators, we want to compare reality to a goal, not just look at numbers with no meaning. Now I'll quickly walk you through the input data sheets so you understand what each one is for. The plan sheet has planned sales broken down by department and by state across the months from January to December. So it's basically what did we expect to happen. The prior year orders sheet gives historical information, so we can compare this year to last year. That helps you see improvement or decline. The orders sheet is the main transactional table. It has one row per order. It includes the month, the salesperson, the department, the sale type, regular, promotion, clearance, and the region like Florida or California. It also includes values like quantity, shipping cost, and sales amount. The HR sheet gives staff-related numbers like new hires and terminations plus average sick days, and it's split by region and year. The survey sheet is where we get staff and customer satisfaction plus Net Promoter Score. And the wait times sheet shows how long customers wait to be served, including average, minimum, and maximum wait times across the year. Then there's the pivot sheet, which is blank at first. We'll use it later to build a pivot table for salesperson performance. And then the calculations sheet. This is where everything comes together. So now that we understand the data, we can start building the calculations. We want to pull sales from the orders table using clear criteria. Think about what we need. We want sales for a specific month, for a specific department like clothing, for a specific sale type like regular, and for a specific region like Florida. SUMIFS is perfect when you want to add up values, but only for rows that match several conditions. Click on Cell D2. This is where we're going to be starting. Effectively, what we want to do is to look at clothing, regular, region, and month. Those four areas are going to want to look at. So, we need four criteria here. We'll start off with a SUMIFS formula and we are going to be looking in the orders worksheet. All right. Let's type equal SUMIFS and we open a bracket. It's asking us for our sum range. So we're going to our order sheet. The sum range is the sales column. So I put my cursor on L2 press Ctrl Shift down arrow and then press F4 because I want to lock on that range. Type a comma to move on to the next argument of SUMIFS. The criteria range 1 is the months on column B, so click on B2, press Ctrl Shift down arrow, and then press F4 to lock the range. Comma. Now our first criteria is the month in calculation sheet, so go back to the calc sheet. We want the months in row 1 for column D, which is cell D1. Now press F4 twice to lock only the row. Type a comma. The criteria range 2 is department, clothing, garden, homewares. In orders worksheet, the department is in column G. Go to orders, highlight G2 from the segment column down to the end, Ctrl Shift and down arrow. Then press F4 to lock. Type a comma. And criteria 2 is the cell in calc that says clothing, so it's cell A2. Great! Press F4 3 times to lock in the column only. We lock the column because when we will copy the cell to the right, we want the column A to stay the same. Okay? It's time for criteria range 3. That will be the area column H in orders sheet, regular, promotion, or clearance. So highlight H2, press Ctrl Shift, down arrow, and then press F4 to lock the range. Comma, and the criteria 3 is cell B2 from calculation sheet. Press F4 3 times to lock column B. Type a comma. Finally, for our last criteria range, we just want to grab the region, which is this column here. Click I2, Ctrl Shift down arrow, and then press F4 to lock the range. Comma. Criteria 4 is the cell in calc that holds the region you want. Click C2 and press F4 3 times. Now that should give us a result. Close the bracket and press Enter. Good stuff. Let's copy the formula down and across to cover all 12 months from January to December for regular, promotion, and clearance. The totals are a simple sum function, as you can see. Let's highlight the cells from D2 to O4 and copy that with Ctrl C. And then paste it. It's already in memory, so we can copy it down to the homeware. For the total row in each department, we can either sum up the 3 rows for regular, for promotion, and for clearance. Or we can write another SUMIFS that includes all sale types. I prefer the SUMIFS. Now, keep in mind that usually in Excel there are alternative formulas to achieve the same result. For example, here we could use SUMPRODUCT or DSUM or even PivotTables, but SUMIFS is generally the simplest and most efficient for multi-criteria summations in modern Excel. Also, I want to use functions that work in all versions of Excel, not only the newest Excel 365. Click on cell D20 and type SUMIFS. So what are we summing? Well, this is our sum range here from D2 to D80, and we want to press F4 twice. And now we want to type a comma. For the criteria range, we want to look at our regular, promotion, and clearance, but make sure the range is symmetrical. And we'll press F4 one time because we want to lock that in. Type of comma. And for our criteria, we're just going to look at cell B20. Press F4 3 times. So that locks the column in. We'll close our bracket and we'll press Enter. We can do a quick check. This is regular, so I'll highlight cell D2, press and hold Ctrl key then click D8 and D14. Regular, regular, and regular, right? Do you see the sum down here? It's the same. Well done. So let's drag that cell down and all the way across to paste it. That gives us all of the information that we need to complete the table there. Now, let's have a look at our future year plan information. Our plan information is on a different sheet. It's on the plan sheet. And we want to have a look at our department and region. So basically, these two areas here. Remember, in our assumption sheet, we've got regular promotion clearance. All right, so with that in mind, we'll click on cell Q2. And we'll just type equals SUMIFS, open a bracket, and we'll go into our plan sheet. We want to have a look at the data out here in O2 all the way down to O40. Press F4 once and type a comma. And the information that we want to look at is our department. So we highlight A2 to A40 and we'll press F4 once, comma. The criteria are cell A2 from calculations worksheet, and then press F4 3 times. Type a comma. For criteria range 2, we go back into our plan sheet, and that's in column B. Click into cell B2, hold the Shift key, go down to B40, and press F4 one time. That locks that area in, comma. The second criterion is region, so cell C2. So we type C2 and then press F4 3 times. That locks the column in and that gives us effectively what we need. Close bracket and press Enter. We'll have a look at what is given to us. Now what's given to us is the sum of clothing for Florida, but that's not quite right. You'll see that's compared to what we've actually done. It's a lot higher. So what we want to do is we want to use our assumptions to split out our regular promotion and clearance. We're just going to multiply that by going through our assumptions sheet, and then we'll click into cell C2. Then we'll press F4 once. All right? Now because we've got this in multiple places, what we'll do is we'll just copy it down 3 times. We'll get a direct replication of the number 3 times, but we will change the promotion line from C2 to C3. And we'll change the clearance line from C2 to C4. Let's copy that particular table, and if we've set it up nicely, it should flow through to all of the other areas. So, paste it below and below again. So what we want to effectively do now is we want to look at summarizing that information. I've got a little table down here, and this is the table that becomes important sort of charting purposes. So we're going to be looking at our actual and our plan for each of these departments by state, and we will type another SUMIFS formula here. Okay, click on cell D28 and type equals SUMIFS open bracket. The sum range, we're going to be looking at the column that we're currently in, so we'll just isolate the information in this column, cells D2 to D24, and we'll need to press F4 twice. So that locks in the row. Type a comma, and now we want to have a look from left to right, column A. So we highlight the information from A2 to A24, and we press F4 once. That's got our clothing, garden, and homeware. Comma. Then we're going to want to look at these items here. Click into cell A28 and press F4 for 3 times. And that locks column A in. We type comma. The next set of criteria is going to be in column B, right? So we highlight the information in column B from B2 to B24 and we'll press F4 once because we don't want that to move, and we type a comma. The second criterion is region to C28. And once again, I'll press F4 3 times, so it makes column C absolute. We close our bracket and press Enter. Great, that formulation has produced the result that we want, and we'll just drag that formula across all the way to December. Once again, with this formulation, we should be able to have the flexibility to work in all three departments. So, let's make a copy of it and paste it for garden and homeware. The next step is to find the values for each month by department and region using the planned sales data. And for this calculation, we will use again the SUMIFS, but looking at the plan worksheet. So, cursor on cell D29 and start typing equal SUMIFS open bracket. The sum range is the January sales column from plan worksheet, cells C2 to C40. And we'll need to press F4 twice. So that locks in the row. Type a comma. The first criteria range is the department column from the plan sheet. Let's highlight cells A2 to A40 and press F4 to lock the range. Then we're going to want to look at these items here. Click into cell A29 and press F4 for 3 times. And that locks column A in. We type comma. The next set of criteria is going to be the region in column B from the plan worksheet. Right? So we highlight the information in column B from B2 to B40 and we'll press F4 once because we don't want that to move. And we type a comma and the last criteria are cell C29. And once again, I'll press F4 3 times. So it makes column C absolute. We close our bracket and press Enter. Great! To verify that this value is correct, you can go to Plan Sheet and see the sales for Florida and clothing department for the January. Yes, it's correct. Drag the formula to the right. And then I will copy this range and paste it for garden and homewares. Now for the total sales of all departments, we could do a simple sum of these 3 cells. Let's click first on cell D37 and type equal D28 plus D31 plus D34. So, actual for clothing, garden, and homewares. Okay, we'll do the same in cell D38. So, let's sum up the planned sales for each department. Equal D29 plus D32 plus D35. And I'll copy the function to the right. Great! If you use the SUMIFS formula, we would have the same results. Of course, it's not as flexible as if we were to create a SUMIFS, because the advantage it has if we added another department, for example, I don't know, selling car products or something like that, we could just put that inside of our table and then the SUMIFS formula would adapt to include that without any problem at all. But for simplicity, we just created a solution quite quickly. All right, so moving to the next area, what we're going to do down here is we're going to do a count of particular sales in each of our department. Our order sheet has a discrete line for each sale, so we can sum pretty much any column, and it will return us the amount of orders that we had for clothing, garden, and homewares departments. Now, we have to do this slightly differently. We can't use the SUMIFS, we need to use the COUNTIFS formula. It takes pretty much the same sort of arguments, like the SUMIFS formula without the sum at the start. Cursor inside cell D42, and let's type equals COUNTIFS. And we'll open a bracket. Let's see the arguments. The first is criteria range 1, as you can see. So, we'll go into our order sheet and let's click into cell B2, Control-Shift down arrow, and then press F4 once. The first criteria is our month. We type a comma and we need to put our first criteria in. We are on January sales, so it's cell D41, okay? Press F4 2 times to lock the row 41. Comma will go into the orders for the second criteria range, which is the segment column. F4 again. Type comma. Our second criteria is A42, the specific department that we are looking for. Press F4 3 times to lock column A. And now we want to have a look in column I, region. So we'll put our cursor in. That's our region. So I2, Control-Shift down arrow, then press F4 1 time. Comma, the criteria is Florida region. Cell C42. Press F4 3 times to lock the column C. We type a comma, close our bracket and press Enter. So we have 51 orders from Florida and the clothing department for January. And these are from the year 2024. Let's copy that down and all the way across. Now, we've done a count on multiple criteria, right? For the year 2023, which is the past year orders, we will do it slightly differently, and we will use this SUMIFS formula for that. Let's explain it. Go to past year's orders worksheet. Here I have two main tables, one with the number of orders for each region, segment, and month, and one table with the past year's sales per region, department, and month. We are interested in the first table because we are looking for volumes for how many sales we have had from the past year. This way, we will have a standard of comparison from different years. Let's click on cell D47 and start typing equal SUMIFS open bracket. The sum range is cells D2 to D25, January month, from past year orders sheet. Let's lock the rows by pressing F4 twice. The first criteria range is region column, B2 to B25. F4 wants to lock this range, comma, and the criteria is cell C47, Florida region. Press F4 3 times, and the second criteria is the department column. The criteria cell is A47. We are looking for clothing segment. Again, F4 3 times. Close brackets and Enter. All right, let's copy that down and all the way across. Good stuff. We finished this area with our calculations. All right, now we will continue by calculating the number of terminations and new hires of employees by region and month. And we will use once again our powerful SUMIFS formula. The steps are exactly the same as we did in the previous calculations. I assume that by now you have gained some comfort in calculating the sum and can do it yourself. So I want to pause the video and do your best calculating the termination and new hires numbers with the help of SUMIFS and Human Resources worksheets. This is the range that you're going to use to calculate the formula. Pause the video and let's get started.
A few moments later.
Great! Let's see how you did. This is the SUMIFS formula that you had to fill in to cell D57. The sum range is column C, the number of terminations and new hires for January. The criteria range is A2 to A17, and the criteria is cell A57. The second criteria refers to the region, as you can see. Now we are ready to drag down and to the right. Great! Now follow the same steps to find the SUMIFS for cell D62 using again the HR worksheet. Okay, here is the formula to find the number of average sick days for previous and current year, and I will copy and paste it to fill the cells of this area. All right, our next problem is to pluck out our Net Promoter Score. Now, if you have a look at our Net Promoter Score, where it lives in the survey sheet, we want to push our state and our year into this little table, but we've got our year running down this way, and we've got a state happening here. So we can't actually produce this with a SUMIFS formula. We need to do it with a SUMPRODUCT formula. That's how we'll solve the problem. Click on cell D67 and start typing equal SUMPRODUCT. Now, this SUMPRODUCT formula needs two brackets to start. We put our two brackets in, and then we'll go into our survey sheet. As first criteria, let's start with the state. So, highlight cells from B23 to B30 and press F4 once. That locks that particular area in. And we'll say where that is equal to the values in C67. So, C67, and then we'll press F4 3 times. Close our bracket, type a multiplication sign, and open second bracket. Now, this bracket is going to be for our year, which runs across the top of our table. So, we go into the survey sheet and just isolate the values of the years from C22 to G22 and press F4 once. Now, that value is equal to what's in B67. And we'll press F4 3 times. You see, we come back here and it's plucked out the year. We close our bracket, multiplication symbol, and open our final bracket. Now, this is just the data table, and the data table needs to be in a symmetrical sort of way. It needs to be symmetrical, the same height and depth as your table. So it just has to be starting in row 23 and ending in row 30 at column G, cells C23 to G30. Okay? We press F4 once and we close our brackets twice. Enter. You can see the symmetry inside the formula. It started in row 23, ended in row 30. The information starts in column C and ends in G. So it goes from C23 to G30. That should give us the result that we need all the way through. You can see on their promoter score changing year on year, and the criteria when you go to the last sale is also changing. Let's move on to our second last table. We will use again the magical SUMIFS formula to find the customer and employee satisfaction metrics, specifically the satisfaction percentages for previous and current year for customers and staff. Click on D75 and type equal SUMIFS, open a bracket. The sum range is column C, prior year from survey worksheet, cells C2 to C18. Press F4 twice to lock the rows. The first criteria range is column A, from A2 to A18. F4 to lock the range. And B75 is the criteria cell. Press F4 3 times. The second criteria have to do with the region we are in right now, right? B2 to B18. F4 to lock the range. And C75 the criteria cell. F4 3 times. Close brackets and enter. Let's drag down. I'll do quickly the SUMIFS for the current year. Alright, our final table requires an additional criterion. So we need 3 criteria. The table is set up much the same way as our Net Promoter Score table, but we need this particular information: our average wait time, a minimum and maximum, our region, and also the week number. If we just go into our wait time sheet, you see it's set up much the same way. So we need our region, the description, plus the week number. Once again, it's a SUMPRODUCT formula. Click on cell E80 and let's type equals SUMPRODUCT. And we open with 2 brackets. Let's go to Wait worksheet and grab our first piece of information. Click into cell A2, Control Shift down arrow and press F4 once, where that is equal to C80 from the calc sheet, and then press F4 1, 2, 3 times. Close our bracket, multiplication symbol, open a bracket. So now we'll go and have a look at description in the next column. It's column B. Click on cell B2 and grab all the information like this. F4 once again. And where that is equal to E79. And then press F4 twice because we want to lock those rows in. Alright, now we close our bracket, multiplication symbol, and open the bracket for our third criteria. So we go into the weight sheet and we put our cursor into cell C1, Control Shift, right arrow, and then press F4 once. That locks that in utterly and completely, and where that is equal to D80. And then we'll press F4 3 times. Close our bracket, that's our third criterion. Multiplication sign, open a bracket. Alright, now all we have to do is to put a sum range. And remember, it has to be symmetrical with all the data that we've just put in. So we go into the weight sheet, put your cursor in cell C2, Control Shift down arrow, and hit the right arrow. Now you've got the entire range. Hit F4 once and close your bracket 2 times. And that will give us the formula we need based on our 3 criteria. Enter excellent. So if we've done the formula correctly, we should be able to copy it across and just send it down by double-clicking this little square here. Nice. That's populated our final table, which is fantastic. Alright, we've done with our calculations. I don't need any more this gray color in the cells that we made the calculations, so give me a minute to remove the fill. Usually, I press the Control key and start highlighting different areas of the worksheet, and then I apply formatting. Now it's crystal clear. All right, let's move to our dashboard page. So, what we might do now is start to populate some of these tables, and it's sort of a repetitive process after we get started, but fairly valuable. All right, okay. First, we'll have a crack at the clothing table. Let's put your cursor in cell C8. Keep in mind that we've already done all this information. It's always been my view that the data that we play with our calculations just falls into our outputs page, because all of the heavy lifting, all the work should have already been done on our calculation sheet. All right, we put our cursor in cell C8 and we'll say equals. We'll go into our calculation. And the information we want is right at the top. So it's in cell P2, and we're just going to divide that by 1000. This is the total for clothing and regular. Press enter. We divide it by 1000 because we don't want huge numbers in our... All these values are in thousands, as you can see here. We should be able to copy that down and across. So now we've got our actual and plan against all over one or another. So we've got them both going through this report. Now we're just going to get the difference between the two. In cell E8, we will type equals, open a bracket, and we'll take our current year information. So C8, and we'll minus off our future year plan. We'll close our bracket, then we're going to divide that by our plan. So give us the sort of movement between the two. And you see that our actual short of our plan, because these sales were at down 11.5%. So we'll just copy that all the way down. And what we might do is we might add some conditional formatting to this. Excel has got some conditional formatting tools up here. So we'll just have a look at our conditional formatting and we go to the icon sets. Let's just choose this one here. Now the general rule around adding icons is you add them, but you always have to manipulate them afterwards because Excel add their own rules to the back end and then what you might want to put inside of your report. So you've got to go and change and manipulate the rules that you put in to be in line with what you want to describe or how you want to sort of present the data. So we'll choose conditional formatting and we'll choose to manage rules. Press the Edit Rule button. Now you can add what you like inside here where it says % down here. I would like to change that to a number. I will change both to a number. Basically, you can actually put a percentage in there. But what we might do is we'll say that anything above 0, we're going to have a green tick. Anything below or up to minus 0.04 is going to be yellow. And anything else is going to be sort of a down red arrow. So our first one should be a down red arrow. It actually should look the way that it looks now. But that's just by coincidence. Hasn't changed. But that was just a rampant coincidence. If I changed the rules just slightly, then that would change. All right. So we're going to use this as a bit of a banker. We're going to take this and copy the formatting in our garden, homewares, and the total table. Let's have a look at our garden area and put our cursor in H8. And we'll say equals, go into the calc sheet, clicking to cell P8. Then divide that by 1000. Press the Enter key. I'll copy that down and across. For our homewares, click on cell M8 and we'll say equals and then we'll go into our calculations worksheet. Our homeware is in cell P14. Let's divide that by 1000. Enter. Copy it down and across. Nice. So we got that coming through quite nicely. And for our actual sales, we can either get it out of the other sheet or we can get it from here. It doesn't matter. We're drawing on the same data set. So we'll say equals our current year actual for clothing plus our garden plus our homeware. Enter. And because we've set this up as a bit of a table, we should be able to copy each of them. And there we have it. We've got sort of a summary of our 3 departments. All right, as I said, what I thought might be a good idea is to put a chart there, which shows the actual and the plan month by month and see how we're going. We've actually got that information in the calculation sheet and we filled it out here. These little tables here are the same information that we just described in our summary output, but it's got more granular data. It's for the clothing department and we've got actual overplan. So we're going to create a little chart. Let's just isolate the information. First, let's grab that data there, cells B27 to B29. It's the description for actual and plan. Now hold the Control key down, click on January, cell D27, all the way to December, cell O29. From here, what we want to do is we want to choose to insert a chart. I will choose this normal 2D column chart. We're going to change and manipulate it as we go. Okay, once that's created, what we might do is we might take out some of these elements and we're going to use this chart as a bit of a template. We only want to create and do all the work once. And once we've done it once, we can use it over and over again to reproduce what we need. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is to get rid of the chart title. It's reasonably clear what we're doing. We're going to take out these grid lines, and I'm going to remove the vertical axis. Also, I'm going to move this actual plan legend up to the top left. Now I can click on this and bring the columns down to the bottom. It's already starting to look a lot cleaner. Let's right-click on the orange elements of the plan and let's change the series chart type. We want to change the plan column to a stacked line with markets. Great, that's exactly what I want. Click OK. Now let's start to manipulate that line. So let's right-click on the line and select the Format Data Series option. I'll choose this Fill and Line Bucket icon. Firstly, I want to take the line out. And then I want to start to negotiate the marker. I want the marker to pop out on screen. So I click the marker and I'll choose Marker Options. I might make it a little larger, like 8 point. Let's take the border off also, because it comes with a border around it. For the fill color, I'm going to change this to sort of a more complementary color. This light blue here is nice. Finally, I want it to pop out. So I choose this one in the middle, the effects, and I'll choose 3D format. And where it says top bevel, I'll just choose the round shape. Close the Format Data Series pane. Now, this gap between each of the elements in the chart, I don't like it. So right-click on Actual Series and select the Format Data Series option. And I want to reduce that gap width. I usually choose 30. Let's have a look at what it looks like at 30. I'll just leave it at that, right? Maybe I will add a 3D effect in the columns. Click to Effects button and choose the round bevel. The next step is to make this chart transparent. Right-click on the outside of the chart, Format Chart Area, no fill and no border. Now I've got my template, okay? The last step is to add some labels. To format them, right-click, and I'll choose Format Data Labels. From Label Position options, I'll choose to put them in the center. I've got to make them a bit smaller. From number options, I'll choose a number format, a custom number format. And then the coding that I'm going to use is going to be hashtag, comma, hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. And then I'll type a comma. The effect of typing a comma takes 3 zeros off. It turns it into thousands. And I'm just going to say K, and the K is going to be in double quotes. Okay? So I click Add. Let's also choose a white font, size 8, and bold text. Very good. We're almost there. I will reduce the size of the horizontal axis, the months, and make them bold. Now, we are ready to make a copy of that chart and move our dashboard page. I will paste it somewhere there. Just manipulate it. I'm a bit pedantic about this thing. Try to line the chart with the values above. It's just about right. As I said, we only want to do the work once. If we return to Calculations and click on our chart, you can see that this is the element that it relates to. I should be able to move that down. So that becomes our garden chart. Add some labels. Let's choose a different color for garden. And I'm going to choose this color. Now I'll make a copy of that and paste it to the dashboard worksheet below the garden area. I will resize it to line the chart with the values above. Fantastic. Back to calculations. Drag that blue line down. And now it becomes the homewares one. Add some labels. Change the color. Copy and paste the chart below homewares. Finally, we will make a chart for the total sales by state. Exactly the same steps. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to create a pivot table and we're going to pull the information for the pivot table into this area, sales staff performance. We have 4 columns: salesperson, clothing, garden, and homeware. And we're going to be doing some different conditional formatting for this particular table. Let's move into our order sheet. Put your cursor anywhere, right? From the Insert tab, we want to insert a pivot table. Click the pivot table button. I want to put it in an existing worksheet. Click the location, go to PV worksheet, and then cell A1. Now we've got the capacity to put the elements that we want inside of our pivot table. So our region is going to be our report filter. And that's going to be reasonably important as we are going to toggle our report because we're going to use this as a bit of a toggle. Now, what we want to do is we'll want to create a segment. So we'll create a segment in the columns. Next up, we want to look at our salesperson. So pull our salesperson down to our rows. Finally, we're going to have a look at our salesperson by sales. Let's drag and drop the sales fields into the values area. So, we've got all of that information inside of this report. I'm going to choose a region and say Florida. And you see that we've got all of that information inside of this particular report. If you go to calculation sheet, Florida just happens to line up with what's in here. But we'll change this very shortly. In the output sheet, we've got all the information that we need now from our pivot table. So we'll just put our cursor in cell B25 and we'll say equals, go into the pivot sheet and then click on cell A5. What is the next step? Right, to drag that down and all the way across. So those three columns will go across, and we've got a summary for our clothing, homewares, and garden. But we want to divide that by 1,000. So we'll keep the report in the same format as the ones above, the sales above. So we'll divide clothing by 1,000, drag it down, drag it across, change the formatting slightly so it looks a little neater. Next up, we'll add some conditional formatting. So just to highlight this particular area here, from C25 to E30, basically the numbers. And on the conditional formatting menu, under the home menu, we're just going to choose color scales. So we'll choose this one here, blue, white, and red. And then from the Manage Rules, what we'll do is we'll soften a little bit. Click Edit Rules. Then we'll just change the colors so it's in line with the sort of color schemes that we've already chosen. What it's effectively saying is the blue is the higher numbers, the darker the color, and the light red is the low color. I will delete the chart from the calculation sheet because I don't need it anymore. Keep in mind that the colors that I prefer have to do with personal choices. You can select any color you want. It's enough that they have a consistency and don't exceed the 3 or 4 colors max. All right, let's create now a chart for new hires and terminations. I will go back to the calculation sheet. The first step is to select the data for the chart that I want to create. We will rely on this area to make the chart. So, I will highlight cells A57 to A58, then press and hold the Control key. And now, highlight only the numbers for all months from D57 to O58. Release the control, and from the Insert tab, I will choose a stacked column chart. The first thing that we're going to do is to get rid of the chart title. It's reasonably clear what we're doing. We're going to take out these grid lines. Also, I'm going to move the legend up to the top left. It's already starting to look a lot cleaner. The next step is to fix the horizontal axis. I want to move it down here and I want the months to be visible, not the numbers. Right-click on the axis, Format Axis. From the Label option, I will change the label position to low. Right-click again on the axis and choose the option. Select Data Source. I want to edit the category labels, so let's click the Edit button. Now I'm going to highlight the months from January to December. Okay, and OK again. Great. I might change the size of the text for the horizontal and vertical axis. Size 8 and bold text is fine. Next up, I will change the gap width and the colors of the series. Right-click to any of these columns. Format data series. Let's try 20% as gap width. And I will change the color of new hires to a very light blue. A shape effect also would be great. A round bevel, for example. Yes, it is better now. Let's change the color for the terminations too. As for the vertical axis, I might change the bounds and the units. I want to be cleaner, so right-click, Format Axis, and from Axis Options type -10 as minimum bound and 15 as maximum bound. Let's change also the units to 5 and 1. It's time to make this chart transparent. Right-click on the outside of the chart, Format Chart area. No fill and no border. And the last step is to increase the font of the legend. I think we are ready to copy and paste the chart to our dashboard. Okay, some final corrections to the chart. And we are ready. The next chart that we are going to create will represent the average annual sick days per employee for all the months and for the current and previous years. Delete the previous chart. We have the data ready in the calculations worksheet. Here they are. You see once again that the driving force is this specific worksheet. Let's highlight the cells A61 to A63, hold Control, and highlight cells from D61 to O63. From the Insert tab, let's choose a line chart with markers. The steps are similar to the previous chart, so I will go a little faster. Remove the title and the grid lines. Move the legend up here. I will also move the lines downwards. Now I'm going to change the bounds of the vertical axis. Right-click, Format Axis. I'll change the max bound to 8, the min bound to 2, and the units to 2 also. Maybe I'll put 10 as max bounds. And I will remove the decimals from number options down there. Next up, let's change the color of the lines, the width, the markers, etc. Right-click on the orange line first. Change the color to a light blue. And the width to 3 points. Also, from marker options, I will change the size to 6. Remove the fill and change the color of the border to purple. Let's increase also the width. I will repeat the steps for the previous year's line. Fantastic! Make this chart transparent. right-click on the outside of the chart, no fill and no border. And increase the font of the legend a bit. Ready to copy and paste the chart to our dashboard, right? Okay, some final corrections to the chart and we are ready. For the employee satisfaction, this will be a donut chart. First of all, let's delete the previous charts from the calc sheet. We don't need them anymore. Okay, to create the donut chart, we need data. Let's highlight cells D76 and E76. From the Insert tab under the Chart section, select the donut chart. All right, here is the donut chart representing employee satisfaction for the previous year. Until now, I have one slice for the previous year. If I want to add the current year's data, all you have to do is to right-click, select Data, and add a new series by highlighting the cells F76 and G76. OK. And OK again. Delete the title and the legend. Also increase the size of the donut. Let's click twice this area, right-click, and from the bucket remove the color. Do the same for this slice also. Next up, from Series option, let's decrease the donut hole size to about 30%. Also change the angle of first slice to 90 degrees, and I will change the color of the inner slice to a light blue. I need labels, so right-click and choose to add data labels. Alright, let's make some adjustments to the labels. Nice. Make this chart transparent. Okay, the chart is ready. Copy and paste to this area of the dashboard. Let's remove the fill of this line. And make some final adjustments on the labels. Fantastic! We are close to completing the dashboard. If you want, this is a perfect moment to pause for a second because everything we're doing right now is exactly what my Excel dashboard course is built to teach, but in a more guided, step-by-step way. If you've ever felt like dashboards are confusing or you're never sure which formulas to use, how to structure the calculation sheet, or how to make everything look clean and professional, the course walks you through the full process from start to finish with real examples and downloadable files. And right now you can get 50% off with the coupon code SCROLL50. The link is in the description if you want to check it out, and then come right back here and keep building with me. Now, to fill this small table, what we want to do is we want to grab some of the volume-based information now, which we have in our report. So we want to get the current year's volume, the prior year volume, and the variance. The beauty of the variance is we can use the conditional formatting that we've got above. Let's put your cursor in cell C36 and say equals. Let's go into the calculations worksheet and locate our current volume. So we want that data there, cell P42. Remove the dollars. I don't want the cell to be locked in. F4 3 times. Press Enter. I will drag that down. The current year total volume is ready. Our prior year is just a little lower. So say equals, go into the calculation, and our prior, your data, is in P47. Remove also the absolute reference. Enter. Let's drag that down as well. Alright, now our variance is the same formulation, and I want the same conditional formatting as we've got up here. So let's copy it. Copy all 4 cells and paste them down there. I'll just check to see if it's doing what we wanted us to do. Anything above 0 appears as a green line. Anything below -4%, it's kind of like a yellow line. And you saw at the top that anything lower than that will actually appear as a red arrow, not yellow arrow. Cool. Next chart is for showing checkout average waiting times. The data we need to create the graph is found inside the calculations sheet as usual. Okay, let's move on to Calc sheet and delete the previous chart. Highlight the cells from D79 to G131. From the Insert tab, choose the Stacked Area chart. Alright, I will make some modifications to the graph. I will delete the week series and the minimum wait time series. I want to keep the average and the high waiting times. Also, let's delete the title, the grid lines, and the legend. I want a dark blue color for the average. And a light blue color for the max wait times. Great! One final modification for the chart before pasting it in the dashboard is to change the interval units for the horizontal axis to make it more clear. So I want fewer weeks to appear on the horizontal axis. Right-click Format Axis. From Labels options, change the interval units to 5. Now it's better. Finally, let's delete the border and fill of the chart to make it transparent. It's time to move the chart on the output sheet. Ctrl X and Ctrl V. Put it somewhere there. I'll resize it a bit. I think it's okay now. Great. Alright, let's create now a chart for the Net Promoter Score year over year. I will go back to the calculations sheet. Okay, the first step is to select the data for the chart that I want to create. We will rely on this area to make the chart. So, I will highlight cells B67 to B71, then press and hold the Ctrl key. And now highlight only the numbers for all the years from D67 to E71. Release the control, and from the Insert tab, Recommended Charts, I will choose this Stacked Column chart. I wanted to show you the Recommended Charts Excel option to showcase our data. Sometimes it's a good idea to leave Excel decide for you which chart fit best for our data. Okay, let's modify the chart. First of all, remove the title, the grid lines, and the legend. From Chart Design tab, press the Change Chart Type button. Click on Combo and change Series 2 to a line chart with markers. Now right-click on the line. Format Data Series. From Fill and Line, remove the line. From the marker options, change the size to about 8. Remove the border and change the color to a blue-gray. This is nice. So we finished with the target percentage. Now I will change the color of the Net Promoter Score column. I will choose this dark blue. Alright, maybe I will decrease the gap width to 30%. Yes, this is better. I will also add labels to the chart. From Label Position, choose Center. Let's change the color and size of the labels. Okay, finally I will change the bounds of the vertical axis. The minimum is 30% and the maximum is 50%. The chart is almost ready. Let's make it transparent. No fill and no border. It's time to paste it to the dashboard. And the final chart shows customer satisfaction. This is essential, the same donut chart with the employee satisfaction. So I will not have to create it from scratch. I will only copy and paste it here and make the necessary modifications. The first step is to change the data. So from Chart Design, select Data and let's edit the data of Series 1 and Series 2. Press OK. These are the colors that we are going to use for the chart. So I will copy and paste them to the slices accordingly. And I will add labels like this one. Delete this. Delete this also. Alright, so that's got a lot of data inside of our KPI report now. What we effectively want to do is we want to add a bit of a toggle so that we can change our report by region. So we'll do that from the pivot table. Let's go into our pivot sheet. Click inside the pivot table. Choose the Analyze menu and choose Insert Slicer. It's somewhere in the middle. We want the slicer to be based on our region. So we click Region and we click OK, and I've got enough room for this to be horizontal. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8 states. So I don't want a vertical, I want a horizontal. Right-click on the slicer. the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the description at the top. Choose Slicer Settings. And then where it says Display Header, I don't want it. Some people like it, but I'm not a big fan because you can actually replicate the same things just by holding the Shift key or the Control key. Now I want to choose 8 columns. So, where it says Columns from the Slicer tab, change the 1 to 8, then you'll need to manipulate this so it changes and has all of our states. So, let's make a copy of that and let's put it in our output sheet. Nice! In a perfect world, now changing this will change our report. But you can see down here, it's only changing that part of the report. Now, the reason for that is we've got to go into our calculation sheet and hook up this. Got to change this entire sort of area. So, it's pointing to our pivot table. Click on the first cell, C2, and say equals. Go into the pivot sheet and just point to cell B1. You press Enter. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. From cell C2, go to Formula tab and just copy this. I'm highlighting it, Control C, press Enter. Now press Control F. We're going to be looking at Florida FL, and we want to replace FL with what we just copied. And we want to choose this, replace it all, made 92 replacements, and click OK, close. And you can see I've only manipulated column C because I've consistently referred to column C as my region. Now, as I go to the output page, we should be able to choose Arizona, California, Ohio, and you can see as I change this, all of it, every single element now only relates to the region that I'm choosing. And everything changes inside the report because of how we set it up. So, this is a good way of setting your report up so it can spin on criteria. And we keep that criterion consistent on our calculations page. If you're enjoying this KPI dashboard walkthrough and you want to build dashboards like this faster and with more confidence, check out my Excel dashboard course. It's a step-by-step course designed for beginners and intermediate Excel users where you'll learn how to turn raw data into clean, interactive dashboards using formulas, pivot tables, charts, and simple design rules that make your reports look professional. Right now, you can get 50% off the course price with the coupon code. And that's your KPI dashboard. It fits on one page, it covers sales, staff, and customers, and it gives you a quick view of what's happening inside the business without making you dig through raw data. If you build your own dashboard, try to aim for the same thing. A lot of useful information, but not crowded and always easy to read. Thanks for watching, and if you want the next video where we polish the design even more or add extra KPI ideas, subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.